Well, hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Ashmit Kumar, and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. Nifty hits a record high as bulls maintain the momentum on the Lal Street. Mid-cap index also hits a record high for the 15th straight session. Sensex and Nifty also post the biggest weekly gain in 5 months. Brokerages raise India's full-year growth forecast closer to 7% after Q2 GDP smashes estimates with a growth rate of 7.6%. Street expects robust domestic demand to drive growth, but weaker FDI inflows and potential softness in credit growth could pose downside risks. Motown has a smooth ride in November. Domestic sales aid Bajaj Auto. M&M registers strong passenger car sales. But tractor sales remain tepid. Maruti sales slightly below estimates. Tata Motors commercial vehicle sales continue to skid. JSW Group to pick up 35% stake in MG Motor India, a wholly owned subsidiary of China's SAIC Motor. The subsidiary plans to raise 5,000 crores and eventually go for an IPO. Sources say that the JV will be sealed in 2 to 3 months' time. Ministry of Corporate Affairs refers the probe against Vivo over alleged irregularities involving Chinese investment to the Serious Fraud Investigations Office. Sources say a similar case against MG Motor India has been referred to a senior MCA official for a detailed probe. Raymond's independent directors pledge to protect minority shareholders, appoint Burgess Desai as legal counsel to advise the board on the promoter family dispute. Nawaz Modi Singhania, the wife of Raymond MD Gautam Singhania, has accused him of domestic violence. Gautam Singhania has denied the charges. Fighting resumes in Gaza as the week-long ceasefire expires. Israel launches fresh strikes after accusing Hamas of firing a projectile. Hamas claims 32 people have been killed out of Israeli strikes today. World leaders pledge over $400 million to compensate poor and vulnerable nations for the irreversible impact of climate change at the COP28 summit in Dubai. UAE and Germany will contribute $100 million each. Climate justice activists welcome the move, but raise questions over the fund's long-term sustainability. Supreme Court questions Tamil Nadu governor's decision of referring 10 bills to the president. The state government has called the governor's actions unconstitutional. Well, let's start with what was a record-breaking day on the Lal Street. The Nifty gained over 130 points and hit a record high in intraday trade. The Sensex gained nearly 500 points. The mid-cap rally continues with the index hitting an all-time high for the 15th straight session. It has been a stellar week for the stock markets, with Sensex and Nifty gaining over 2%. This is the biggest weekly gain in the last 5 months. Prashant Nair is joining us now with a quick wrap of the day's market action.
Well, thanks very much for that. Indeed, new highs on the Nifty finally. So in a way, the Nifty, the large cap index, the benchmark has been playing catch up with what the rest of the market has already been doing, which is making newer highs. So the previous high was 20,222, and today we ended at almost 20,270, which is a meaningfully higher high now. So this is essentially where we stand. The Nifty is at a new high. The Bank Nifty is just about 3.5% from its respective high. The Nifty Bank has been the underperformer. And the mid and small cap indices, I've been half jokingly referring to the small cap index as the strongest index in the world. And I think if you count the numbers, I think it would be absolutely true. Just to kind of, I'll come back to the broader picture, but just to come back to the indices today and what they did, this is the picture, the Nifty Bank, the mid cap index and the small cap index. The Nifty Bank has started to participate, and today it crossed the important technical level as well. The gainers on the index coming through up on your screen, ITC, NTPC, Axis Bank, all gaining between 2.5%, 3% or so. There were gains in names like L&T and Britannia, which participated on the upside. In the broader market, market breadth was positive, not a huge degree, but very strong gains. And these are some of the biggest volume-led gains that we had today. So PFC and REC absolute stellar returns on both these names now. The recent listing of IREDA has given these stocks another fillip. Dixon was up big time on fresh capital expenditure plans, 8%. Z Enterprises, Moil was up about 7%. There were names like HBL Power, Genus Power, JSW Infrastructure, Varroc Engineering, Shalimar Paints, an underperformer like Nosil came back into action as well. So this is the bulk of what really happened today. It's been a fantastic November. It's been almost a wild ride for global markets in the month of November. It's been good. What does December hold? We start, of course, with the state election results, which are scheduled for Sunday. The exit polls we already know. So unless and until there is some significant deviation from what the exit polls have shown us, I think the markets will move on, but that we'll know fair enough fairly quickly. The RBI policy outcome next week, I think, becomes important. And of course, the end of the year, as we've been saying for the last 1 month or so, has been historically, seasonally a strong part of the year. So expectations are that the run that we've had perhaps continues even as, liquidity, etc., starts to thin out in the last 15 days of December. Back to you.
Right, Prashant, thanks a lot for that. Now, meanwhile, the government has slashed windfall gains tax on crude petroleum from 6,300 rupees per tonne to 5,000 rupees per tonne. Similarly, tax on aviation turbine fuel has been reduced by 5,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees per kilolitre. This move is in line with the downward trend in global crude prices. Meanwhile, brokerages have upgraded India's full-year growth forecast after the second quarter GDP beat estimates with a growth rate of 7.6%. Here's the breakdown. Citi has revised its FY24 real GDP forecast upwards by 50 basis points to 6.7% on an annual basis. The firm has said that India's GDP data indicates that investment is outpacing consumption. Morgan Stanley has hiked its GDP forecast for the fiscal to 6.9% on a year-on-year basis, highlighting that the rise in forecast was driven by robust domestic demand. However, HSBC expects growth to soften from these levels. These could be largely due to weaker FDI inflows and a likely softness in credit growth over the next few months. Well, auto sales have witnessed robust growth in November. Robust domestic sales aided Bajaj Auto, while Mahindra registered strong passenger vehicle sales. Sonia Shenoy joins us with more details. Sonia, take us through these numbers.
So they were very good, actually. If you look at the overall numbers for the sector, the growth has been in excess of double digits. Let me start with Bajaj Auto, where it's been over a 30% growth that we've seen overall, led largely by the pickup in the domestic market. Exports are still slightly slow, but on a month-on-month basis, exports have recovered. And the management told us that while the market has grown about 8% in terms of retail sales in the festive season, Bajaj Auto has doubled compared to the market in terms of growth. Apart from that, let's move on to the tractor sector, because over there's a bit of a slowdown because of the unseasonal rains. So both Escorts as well as M&M have seen a low single-digit growth in the tractor sales. But talking about M&M, the passenger vehicle sales for M&M have been very strong because of good growth in the SUV space. In fact, even a couple of the others, like say Maruti, reported good set of numbers. The utility vehicles sector has shown a very good growth, although the small car segment is still struggling. And the management said that the demand trends continue to be very strong, even in the utility space, because of the SUV segment growing. They've already reached 25% market share in the SUV segment, and they think that is something that can continue. Finally, for Tata Motors, the commercial vehicle segment for Tata Motors has been particularly weak. It has underperformed its peers like Ashok Leyland. There's been slower growth in the overall business as well. It's a 1% fall that we've seen, while passenger vehicle growth, barring electric vehicles, passenger vehicle growth was very lackluster. But the important bit for Tata Motors is that 90% of their business comes from Jaguar Land Rover. So in that sense, there's not too much of a worry. But having said that, yes, domestic sales for Tata Motors were slightly on the weakish side. Low single-digit growth is what we've seen in passenger vehicle sales. So all in all, you'd have to say a bit of a mixed bag coming in for the auto sector this month. Back to you.
Right, Sonia, thanks a lot for breaking down those numbers for us. But speaking of numbers, India's manufacturing activity continued to expand in November. The S&P Global Purchasing Managers Index came in at 56, rebounding from an 8-month low of 55.5 in October. Now, the rise was fueled by a reduction in pressures and an increase in demand. Employment in the sector increased for the 8th month in a row. Well, TCS has kick-started the fifth share buyback from today. The IT service giant has announced a plan to buy back shares worth 17,000 crore rupees at a premium of 18% through a tender offer route. Now, the company intends to buy 4.2 crore shares at a premium of 4,150 rupees per share. Now, the Tata Group has added another feather to its cap. The retail arm Trent has become the fifth group company to join the elite club of 1 lakh crore rupees market capitalization. Now, the share price of Trent has more than doubled in 2023, recording its best performance since 2009. Tata Group's most valuable company, TCS, has a market cap of nearly 13 lakh crore rupees. Well, staying with corporate India, Raymond's independent directors have hired Burgess Desai as their legal counsel amidst the public dispute between Raymond's MD Gautam Singhania and his estranged wife Nawaz Modi. They have also assured to protect the interests of all stakeholders. Now, the Raymond Group lost nearly 2,500 crore rupees in market cap as the stock slumped for 12 consecutive sessions. But the stock gained in trade today. Santhya now joins us with the latest developments in this case. Santhya.
Raymond's independent directors have written to the exchanges and have apprised them that they have been monitoring the situation with regards to the dispute between Nawaz Modi Singhania and her husband Gautam Singhania. Remember, Nawaz Modi Singhania has accused her husband Gautam Singhania of physically assaulting her. Now, in this letter, the independent directors have reiterated their commitment to protect the interest of non-promoter minority shareholders, employees and stakeholders. They have also said that they will ensure that these matrimonial disputes do not affect the capacity of Gautam Singhania as the MD and chairperson to protect the interest of all the shareholders and all the stakeholders. Remember, recently IIS had written to the independent directors of Raymond and had urged them to initiate an independent investigation in these allegations levelled by Nawaz Modi Singhania. Now, in this letter, the independent directors have informed the exchanges that they have appointed an independent legal counsel, Mr. Desai, who has no links whether to the company or to the promoters. Now, in this letter, the independent directors have also said and also informed the exchanges that the matrimonial disputes are beyond the remit of the independent directors, but they have also assured the exchanges that they will proactively initiate measures the moment required.
Right, Santhya, thanks a lot for that. Now, the Reserve Bank of India has said that more than 97% of 2,000 rupee banknotes in circulation have been returned to the banking system. The Reserve Bank has said that only about 9,700 crore rupees worth of these notes are still in circulation. And it was a strong debut for Flair Writing on the Lal Street. The stock listed at 501 rupees per share, which is a 66% premium over its issue price of 304 rupees. The company's IPO was subscribed nearly 50 times, aided by strong investor interest. Meanwhile, defense stocks, including Hindustan Aeronautics and Bharat Forge, perked in trade today. This after the Defence Acquisition Council approved capital acquisition proposals worth over 2 lakh crore rupees. The Defence Ministry has said that 98% of the total procurement will be sourced from domestic industries. And commercial LPG cylinders get costlier. Oil marketing companies have hiked prices by 21 rupees across the country from today. A 19 kg cylinder will now cost nearly 1,800 rupees in Delhi and over 1,900 rupees in Kolkata. Prices of household LPG cylinders has been kept unchanged. And well, here's bringing the focus back to the auto space. JSW Group has inked a joint venture agreement with China's SAIC Motor to expand the operations of MG Motors in India. In May this year, SAIC Motor had said that it is looking to reduce ownership in MG Motor India to allow domestic players to take majority stake. The JV also marks JSW Group's foray into the automobile sector. Parikshit Luthra now joins us with more details. Parikshit, give us a sense, give us some color on the contours of this deal.
Well, JSW Group and Sajjan Jiddal have been very interested in getting into the electric vehicle space in India, and they were considering a joint venture with MG Motor India. That's now been finally announced. JSW Group has signed a joint venture in London at the MG Motor headquarters with SAIC. Now, SAIC is a Chinese-owned, a state-owned automaker. This is the largest Chinese automaker by sales volumes for that matter. And this will be a JV between the two companies for running MG Motor India operations. So what we do know is that JSW Group wants to go really big with electric vehicles in India. They will be going big with charging infrastructure. There is a plan to expand the capacity of MG Motor as well. They will be working on a range of electric vehicles. So we can expect these companies together to try and make a big splash in the India market. For the moment, this joint venture will take about 2 to 3 months to take effect. JSW Group will be picking up 35% stake in MG Motor India for the moment. MG Motor India had announced in May this year that they wants to divest a majority stake in the company to a local OEM, some of its dealerships, PE investors, and eventually go for an IPO in a few years and completely Indianize the company. So this is the road that MG Motor India is undertaking. They hope to get at least 5,000 crores through this divestment exercise. How much is JSW putting on the table for this joint venture? We are yet to get to know from our sources. But yes, it's a 35% stake, and this JV would come into effect in about 2 to 3 months.
Right, Parikshit, thanks a lot for that. Now, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has referred the probe against Vivo over alleged irregularities involving Chinese investment to the Serious Fraud Investigations Office. Sources have said that a similar case against MG Motor India has been referred to a senior MCA official for a detailed investigation. Timsy Jaipuria joining us now with more details. Timsy, what does this mean for the companies in question?
Well, the two Chinese companies that are facing the heat of Ministry of Corporate Affairs are Vivo Mobiles and MG Motors India. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that Ministry of Corporate Affairs Oversight Committee has referred Vivo Mobile's case to SFIO. MCA has also asked Regional Director in charge of investigations under DG Investigation to look into the alleged irregularities and violations by MG Motors India. MCA has asked the Regional Director to probe the alleged financial irregularities and Chinese investments in MG Motors India, and similarly SFIO will also look into the similar matter for Vivo Mobiles. Remember, this move comes after ROC in its report had advised for further detailed investigation in the books of accounts of both Vivo and MG Motors India. We are also hearing from the company because we sent a query to both MG and Vivo. Vivo India did not reply to CNBC-TV18's query, but MG Motors India has told CNBC-TV18 that MG Motors India has not been approached by MCA in the last few months. They have been approached by MCA only last year, and they fully cooperated with the authorities concerned and provided them all the relevant information, post which no further queries were raised to MG Motors India. Let's see what happens now once these investigation probes are taken further.
Right, Timsy, thanks a lot for that. Time now for a short break, but coming up, world leaders pledge over $400 million to compensate poor and vulnerable nations for the irreversible impact of climate change at the COP28. Prime Minister Modi proposes to host COP33 in India. Details when we come back. Welcome back. Now, world leaders have gathered in Dubai for the crucial UN Climate Summit, or the COP28. On day one, leaders arrived at a consensus on the Loss and Damage Fund, the plan for which was first announced at COP27. The fund will provide financial aid to the poor nations that are vulnerable to the impact of climate change. The initial funding for this will be over $400 million. Of this, COP28 host UAE and Germany have pledged $100 million each. The United States, Japan and United Kingdom have also pledged funding. In his opening address on day two, Prime Minister Narendra Modi proposed to host COP33 in India in 2028. He also called on all nations to work together to cut global emissions drastically.
आज मैं इस मंच से 2028 में COP33 2028 में COP33 समिट को भारत में होस्ट करने का प्रस्ताव भी रखता हूं। हम सभी के प्रयासों से ये विश्वास बढ़ा है कि विश्व कल्याण के लिए सबके हितों की सुरक्षा आवश्यक है.
And I urge countries to speed up their net zero timelines to get there as close as possible to 2040 in developed countries and 2050 in emerging economies. Second, we cannot save a burning planet via fire holes of fossil fuels.
My heart that COP28 will be another critical turning point towards genuine transformational action at a time when already, as scientists have been warning for so long, we are seeing alarming tipping points being reached.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV18. The news and updates continue right here on the other side.